Can co-buying a condo with this startup pay off? That's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. My name is John Pasalis, president at Realosophy Realty. You can catch all my latest writings at movesmartly.com. To stay up to date on all my latest videos, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. So many of you may have seen ads from a new startup called Key. They've been kind of promoting all over the place, especially on Instagram, with a really big promise that you can become a homeowner and own real estate and not a mortgage. And all you need is $15,000 down. You don't need to worry about saving any more money than that. So what this company is trying to sell is this idea of what they call a co-ownership. So you put down roughly 2.5% of the value of a condominium, and you own 2.5% of it, and the other 97.5% is owned by an investor, and you become what they call an owner resident. So you move in, you end up basically paying rent. $50 of your rent goes towards your equity. And then once you decide to move out, they basically will return your investment plus basically interest that's based on how much the condo has appreciated. So if you've lived in the condo and it's gone up $100,000, you get 2.5% of that $100,000, which is, $2,500. Obviously very different from if you're a homeowner and you put down 5%, you get the full 100,000. In this case, you only get the $2,500 because you, in theory, only own 2.5% of that property. So is this a good investment? Should buyers be looking into this? From my perspective, there's a lot of red flags with this company that a lot of buyers who are considering this and needs to be aware of. And the first and most important one is that if you're investing with this company, you're not really a homeowner. This is probably the most misleading things that this company is doing. There's really one test to whether or not you're a homeowner, and that is if you're registered on the title of the property. There's nothing else. This is the only test for home ownership. So if you are not the person that's on title, you're not a homeowner. And when you invest with Key, they don't put their owner residence on title, which means they're technically not homeowners. Effectively, their $15,000 is a loan that they're making to their landlord effectively. So, it is pretty misleading. It probably would have been more accurate for them to market this as some kind of rents to own investment rather than a co-ownership where you own real estate, because you really don't own any real estate. Now, why aren't they marketing as a rent to own investment? Because, through their own admission, they're really targeting people who dream of becoming homeowners but don't qualify for a mortgage. So when you're targeting these people who really want to be homeowners who can't afford a mortgage, it's easier to sell the dream of home ownership versus a rent to own investment. A rent to own investment is going to lead to a lot more due diligence, a lot more research, a lot of questions about your investment. Whereas if you're persuaded into this dream that you can tell everyone that you're a homeowner and you yourself can feel the satisfaction of feeling like you're a homeowner, those people are more likely to overlook and not do as much due diligence into whether or not this is a good investment. And this is why, I went on Twitter and talked about how it looks like a lot of their practices like these are very predatory. They're trying to mislead people into investing in this product that's not really what it is. And their CEO called me and told me I have it all wrong and I just don't understand their business very much. And I said, that's fine. And they just send me basically the contract that your owner residents sign, and I'll look at it from a consumer's perspective, but they refuse to do that, which again is another red flag, because this company's fine sharing their contracts with their less savvy and sophisticated owner residents who can't qualify for a mortgage but really want to become homeowners, but they don't want me to vet it from a consumer's perspective. So a massive red flag. The other issue, again, red flag with why they're misleading people into believing they're homeowners, is because when you're a homeowner, you're more willing to invest in what you believe is your property, right? And in fact, this company, Key, encourages people to invest in the properties. Now, the one, again, problematic idea with what they're doing is, if you're an owner resident and you invest, it's not the investment is not split 97.5% by the person who owns the unit and 2.5% by the owner resident. They expect the owner resident to basically cover all the renovation costs, whatever they want to do. But their promise is that any increase in the value will be returned to the owner resident, which is a very misleading statement for those who haven't renovated homes, because the reality is when you invest money to renovate a home, you don't get every dollar of that back, especially for their owner residents who are not going to do things like, kitchen and bathroom rentals, which have the highest return. If they're doing smaller rentals, they're not going to get all that money back. So what does that look like? If the owner resident spends $10,000 to improve the unit, maybe that contributes to about $5,000 more value to the unit. So when the owner resident moves out, yeah, and they might get $5,000 back, but they spent $10,000. So, who ends up basically with the cost of the renovation expenses that don't add to the value? It's the owner resident, while their, wealthier investor effectively gets only pays for the renovations that added to the value. So basically they're downloading sort of the non-productive costs of rentals to their owner residents and making them cover that expense. While the investors are basically only paying for the rentals that add value. So again, another very misleading thing, encouraging effectively their owner residents to renovate their landlord's unit, just to basically help their investors basically profit off of owner residents. So very, very problematic. You want to do a lot of research before investing with them. The last thing I'll say is, at the end of the day, when you kind of look under the covers, Keys investors are kind of part of the reason why people can't afford condos. I mean, Keys investors are not mom and pop investors. These are big institutional companies that are buying floors and blocks of condos, 60 units across a couple of buildings, and basically kind of out muscling first-time buyers who want to get into the market. First-time buyers who are trying to buy a condo are qualifying based on their savings and their income. Whereas these big Bay Street REITs, these real estate income trusts, are basically not qualified. They just raise millions of dollars from investors and can kind of outbid and outmuscle any first-time buyer. So, even when we look at the foundation of this business, their own investors are the reason why a lot of people can't afford condos now, because they're outbidding first-time buyers, because they're just wealthier Bay Street investors raising millions of dollars of capital to kind of buy 50, 60 condos at one time. And obviously, the average first-time home buyer can't compete with that. So if you're looking at this model, I mean, certainly shoot me a note. I offer on Twitter for anyone who's kind of trying to do their own due diligence and can't afford it. I'd be happy to pay for their legal fees if they're fine with us kind of sending it to a lawyer we trust and can kind of share that info with our readers, because I think it's important to kind of understand some of the nuances of these types of investments before you put your money in it. Because there are a lot of red flags, even on sort of what they promise publicly without me even digging into their contracts. So hopefully you found that helpful. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments below or send me an email at askjohn@movesmartly.com.